Has more opt-outs than the Patriots, and Pat safety Devin McCourty not being shy about his feelings towards his employer and their deadlines. Take a listen to this.
I think it's an absolute joke that the NFL is changing the opt-out period mainly because they don't want to continue to see guys opt out. I'm sure they're shocked about how many guys have opted out. But it's the same thing when we sign the CBA. Sometimes some of those things that we think are good sometimes backfire. You know, we have rookies who are locked in long-term contracts and tagged and tagged. You guys don't think we would love to change that about the CBA, but we can't. That's the point of signing an agreement. So I think it's terrible. I think it's BS that the league has changed that date.
All right, Devin McCourty not holding back there. And Lewis, I'm so glad we have you in this segment because obviously former player and being in the front office. Do you think Devin was out of line there?
No, I don't feel that he was out of line. Look, this is bigger than football. And we understand as players, if I can put that hat on again, we understand that players that were compensated very well by and large, and that, you know, we play a game that is inherently dangerous. We assume a lot of risk as players. I know there's plenty of people out there saying, oh, stop complaining, stop whining. You get paid a king's ransom to play a kid's game. But see, the stakes have been elevated here. The stakes have been elevated. Players now are being forced to make decisions that not only affect them, but affect their loved ones, affect their family members, mothers, grandmothers, children, unborn children, you know, wives who are pregnant and what have you. And one of the things that people always say all the time when they're kind of scrutinizing, criticizing players is players need to put family first. Players need to think more about their families than about themselves sometimes because they can be very, very self-centered individuals and really make and ask other people to make sacrifices for them as they're trying to chase greatness. Well, now players are trying to make decisions, consciously trying to make decisions that are not just about them, but about others. And they need time. They need information. They need to really think through some of these decisions. And there should be no scenario where that timetable for them to make these decisions is artificially sped up on them and reduced to the point where they're not able to really make informed decisions after they have had some time to be in the facilities, actually participating in meetings, in walkthroughs, in practices, in treatment, in meetings, how you're going to get your food, how you're going to get treatment, how you're going to practice, how you're going to meet, you know, and once you're in that regimen, they need to see that. They need to see what kind of procedures and protocols are actually in place so from which they can make an informed decision that not only affects them, but affects their family. Because you can't have it both ways when you're scrutinizing players. Okay, you can't say these are some of the most self-centered, you know, whiny crybabies and they're making all this money. And then at the same time say, well, these players need to be more family-centric and need to look out for their loved ones more so instead of them always just chasing greatness and chasing the next contract and chasing the next endorsement. It has to be something that is fair and equitable, especially when you're talking about the lives of not only your players, your employees, but their extended families. And I think I really do commend the players who are taking a very informed, well thought out, reasonable approach to deciding whether or not playing this year is good for them and good for their families. I really do commend them. I really do applaud them because it's got to be tough. Look, Dante Hightower is leaving a lot of money on the table. I don't care how much money he's made. $8 million is a lot of money to leave on the table. Okay, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, those are big decisions. So for order for you to walk away from that, you really have to be thinking much bigger picture than just yourself, which quite honestly, you know, professional athletes don't always do because it is hard to chase greatness and think about everything else going on around you. But these players are doing that right now. Give them time to do that. Allow them the chance to make informed decisions. And you know what? They will make decisions that benefit the teams in the league in the long run, as long as you are doing everything you can on the team side of things to make sure that they are taken care of, that you have really done everything in your power to make sure these guys are safe. And they still know they're going to take some risks. They still know it. They still know that look, I talk to trainers all the time in the league. They're some of my best friends. Well, they're like, look, Lewis, the virus is here. We know it's here. We know it's around. We can't see it. And the guys are still willing to take that risk. So just give them the time is all I'm saying, Stephen A. Give them the time to make if you agreed on a certain time frame, then stick to it.
Lewis, I respectfully disagree with you, bro. And I respectfully disagree with you in part because of the things that you have served to teach me about the NFL in your years playing in it and obviously just being an executive in it. You've religiously highlighted the importance of coming to training camp, having that time to prepare for a season. You've talked about how grueling a season is, how complicated it is. This is not a simplistic sport. The work that goes in, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. So what is the NFL saying? We've got a season scheduled to start September 10th. It's August 3rd, bro. We got 5 weeks before the NFL season begins. And so when the NFL is sitting there and saying to you, excuse me, we want to move things up or what have you, yes, players are dropping out like flies. You've got 8 players on the New England Patriots that have opted out of the 2020 season. But essentially what you're doing is trying to prevent yourself from being in a position where dudes have all of this time to take their time to make a decision, and then at the last minute they can come and drop the bomb on you. You know what? We're not going to play. And the NFL is trying to avoid that. I respect that. And I think there comes a point in time where, again, we go back to everybody being an adult here. What my disagreement with McCourty is ripping the NFL. The NFL deserves to be ripped if the NFL knows exactly what's going on and don't put forth their due diligence to prepare. The fact of the matter is, this nation hasn't been prepared. Every single place you turn, you've lamented this, Lewis. I have. All of us on the national airwaves and beyond, we've lamented the fact that this nation still hasn't gotten our feet up under this. Every day, every week, every month, there seems to be something new. So the NFL is just as clueless as a lot of other people. We've got the NBA in their bubble with a players association that worked in concert with the commissioner's office and the league office, and they created this bubble in Orlando, Florida. But they got 450 players. We got a situation where NFL, once you got the 53-man roster, you've got 1,696 players and a bevy of other coaches and team personnel that far exceeds the number that exists with the NBA. So as a result, when you're talking about a bubble, think about this for a second. We could sit up there and put these players in a bubble. I tell you what you could do, Lewis. Excuse me. Those NFL facilities that you all don't want to be lumped in the same place because there's so many of us, the camps that you show up to for training camp, you stay there for the entire season. Oh, by the way, it's going to involve a sacrifice. You can't be with your family, or if they're going to have a visit, they've got to get tested. There's only X number of people that go. You can come up with plans. What's the problem? You know you're going to face strong resistance. Because the one thing these players keep saying, Lewis, and I'll let you chime in here, the one thing they keep saying that they don't take into consideration enough, they keep talking about the safety of your family. Well, if you're worried about the safety of your family, why would you be worried about them unless you're going to be around them? If you were not going to be around them, there wouldn't be anything to worry about. Now, that's an incredible sacrifice, and we all get that. I've got a sister, Molly. Molly knows this. I've got a sister that's been battling, kidney failure for years. She's on dialysis. Guess what? I call her all the time. I might go see her once a week, but guess what I'm doing? I'm way away from her. Why? Because I don't want to get her sick. You see what I'm saying? So the point that I'm trying to make is that these are sacrifices. These are decisions. These guys are acting like, oh, my goodness, we don't know what's going on or what we're going to do. No, the reality is there are decisions that you could make, but you don't want to make that sacrifice. It's totally understandable because it's a lot to ask for people to be away from their family and loved ones, etc. But the bottom line is you do know, wear a mask, engage in social distancing. It's just that you don't want to do that when it comes to your own family. And that's really what's going on here. And that's a tough position for the league to be in. So I don't understand how players act like they don't know that when clearly all of us do.
Yeah, Stephen, I agree with many of the points you just made. And don't get me wrong. Look, I'm not saying that the opt-out period should be indefinite. There has to be a cutoff point, but just stick to what was agreed to, okay? Don't speed it up on them. Just leave it where it was. give them the information, make sure that from a team perspective, your plan is in place. And look, they're communicating to the players that, look, there's no way we can protect you 100%. We'll do everything we can on our part. Here's the time frame with which you need to make your decision. And then after that, we're rolling. You're right. Because at some point, if you are going to play the season, you're right. You have to have some kind of structure to it. There is some training period time, some training camp time that is absolutely necessary if you're going to put the games on. And you're also right with this. Players are going to have to make some sacrifices. There's going to have to be some out of the ordinary